Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at Frutticola, which is a 2 to 4 player board game designed by Giovanni Fiore and Virginio Gigli. This one takes about 60 minutes to play and has an economical edge to it where you are trying to harvest fruit, turn that fruit into jam and then sell it at the market. Now this game was a Kickstarter campaign maybe a year and a half ago or so. And it's just been fulfilled. It is being described as a 2020 game, but I personally would consider it a 2021 game, considering I've just received it. So Virginio Gigli, you may notice his name. He's very famous and an amazing designer, to be honest. One of my personal favourites after designing games such as Grand Austria Hotel, Lorenzo Il Magnifico and Coimbra. So top tier Euro games there. So this one is a worker placement style game. And it's going to look a bit like this when it's set up. You've got this main board here, which has these different tiles that you can gain throughout the game. You've got this scaling market here, which is going to show how much fruit is worth, whether you're going to sell 3 of a particular style of fruit or going to sell the relevant jam that fruit turns into. So as you can see here, the apples are going to be worth 10. You've got this round tracker here, which is completely superfluous. You've got money, you've got fertilizers and pesticides, and you've got these different trees here. Now these trees are going to be worker placement spots that you can go to acquire fruit. So these are going to change depending on the player count. So as you can see here, this tree is going to provide strawberries, lemons, and apples. And this is going to be the cost it's going to cost you to acquire those, such as cashing in pesticide or fertilizer. Additionally, you've got a storage space here, which is going to show your capacity of the fruit that you can store at any time. You've got your different types of workers here, and you've got 2 different types. You've got farmers, and you've got the other chaps here with the shovels. And at the start of the game, you are going to either be given 5 cards at random, or you can do a draft for these should you want to. And these are going to determine what you can do from turn to turn, at least how many actions you can get. Because as you can see here, there's a few different bits of information on each card. This one here, the big number in the top left, is going to show the initiative. You've got the different characters here in the top right, which is going to show the order in which you're going to place your workers. So something that's a bit different about this game is that once you've selected your card you're going to use for the current round, you're going to take the relevant workers and you're going to line them up in this kind of queue system based on the card. And that means that you're going to have to play them or place them on this order, which it can be quite important. You've additionally got a particular player power depending on the card that you've played from round to round. For example, this one here says you can gain 1 additional fruit of the same type when using the orchard action. So that's going to let me get fruit a bit quicker. And these are going to scale all the way up to the higher numbers where you can potentially take a lot more actions, but potentially get a hindrance by doing so. And we'll talk about that a bit later. Let's talk about some of the worker placement spots. So they're pretty simple, and this is quite a straightforward worker placement game, at least on the face of it. You've got this one here, which basically lets you sell your fruit and your jams. So if you use the worker with the shovel on this spot, you're going to get a bonus of +1. You've got these inclusive spaces and you've got exclusive spaces. That basically means on these small circles, only 1 person can use them. But the bigger ones, you can do that as many times as you want, and that's going to decipher how many actions of that you can do per placement. So, for example, in this example here, if I went here, I could sell 3 pieces of fruit or jams, but as that goes on, that's going to diminish. But as I said, if you use your other chap, then you are going to be boosted by 1 anyway. You've got the chemical plant here, which lets you gain pesticides or fertilizers. And again, if you use your farmer on that spot, you are going to get a +1 bonus. You've got the ability to turn fruit into jam by using this spot, where you are going to cash in 2 fruit and convert it into the relevant jam. So for example, I could get rid of these 2 oranges and pick me up an orange jam to replace it, which is going to be a lot more efficient in terms of keeping space on your player board. And you've got this action here which lets you recruit these dummy workers, or I suppose these bonus pawns, these assistants, and they are going to go at the back of your queue, but they are going to give you more actions. But of course, you are not going to get the bonuses of certain spots, such as these, which will increase your ability to do certain things. On top of that, you've got the actual ability to gain the fruits in the first place by going to the trees. And some of these are going to have costs on, like this, so it's going to cost you either pesticide or fertilizer. And then you are going to take the fruit that is depicted on the trees. You've got a wild bush here, which lets you take any tree whatsoever. And these are going to change depending on the player count. So only certain, the variation or the setup of the fruits you can get is going to change slightly, and the cost is going to change slightly depending on the player count. Now, on top of all that, you've got some different objectives you can go for if you want to play with them. You've got public objectives, where the first person to do a certain thing. For example, here, the first person to sell a batch of fruit or jam for a total value of 50 can claim this spot here to get an instant bonus of 15 money. Again, the first person to have 12 fruit in their warehouse is going to get the bonus. And of course, other players can go there, but they're going to get diminished values. And first person to get one of each tile. Something that's worth mentioning is that you do start with a capacity of 9, but you have got a potential to increase that by acquiring certain tiles by going to this spot here. And I think this is going to be one of the main spots that is that's going to be used from game to game. So here you are going to, just like the other spots, you are going to place one of your workers on this spot here. And that is going to show how it's going to decide which tiles you can buy. So the first spot to go to is going to be free, but every person to go after there is going to cost a bit more money. If you place your farmer there, you're going to get a discount of 2. And as I said, you're going to also have to pay an additional fee to pick up these certain tiles, which will let you do different things, giving you instant bonuses, giving you endgame bonuses, giving you separate powers. So that's pretty much how the game's going to play. It's going to play out over 4 seasons. So you're going to start off with the spring, go into summer, then autumn, and then into winter. At the end of each month, or each season, the fruit is going to potentially shift up in value depending on the player count. So, for example, in a 2-player game, the prices are only going to shift up at the end of summer. And at the end of the game, or at the end of the 4 seasons, when it's December, everything is going to shift down in value, but everybody is going to get an opportunity to sell all of their jams and fruit that they've acquired throughout at the Christmas market. And there are a lot of cars and tiles that correspond to the Christmas market, which can kind of boost the money that you're going to get. And the player with the most money at the end of the 4 seasons is going to be the winner. So let's talk about how I feel about Frutticola. So Frutticola is a game that's been getting pretty mixed reviews so far, and I think a big portion of that is because of some of the production issues here. It might look very clean and very striking from the face of it, but I did have some issues with the way the game is put together from a components and production standpoint. So, for example, you can see the resources in this game are these different fruits, and these are all round. And you can probably imagine as the game goes on, there are moments where these are just going to go rolling everywhere. They're quite hard to keep all together, but they have made somewhat of an effort to make the bottoms flat, but they're still round little pieces and they can kind of roll all over the place. That is one of the minor issues, and I think that's been blown somewhat out of proportion. However, there are some pretty big issues I had. Number one, paper money. I think paper money is rubbish. There should have been coins. Again, not too big of an issue. The biggest issue I had here was the punch board itself. So the trees, for example, when I was punching these things out, these little stands, it's almost impossible to get those out of the punch board without ruining them, which is really disappointing and quite frustrating, to be honest. And that was a real shame to see. These trees don't stick into these stands as well as I would have liked to. Too many corners have been cut that could have been easily rectified just by paying a little bit more for production. So when I read the rules to Frutticola, I was somewhat underwhelmed. I was thinking, this is a standard fare worker placement game. Let's get this over with. I'm a bit underwhelmed by the rules, and I can't really see this being very interesting. However, when I started playing this game, I started to understand how some of the individual small and interesting mechanisms do completely flip this game on its edge, really, and stretch your brain in different ways that you wouldn't anticipate by reading the rulebook alone. For example, These cards here are extremely interesting, not only because you are playing them simultaneously with the other players to decipher who's going to go first, and being first is important because there are only actually a very few worker placement spots, depending on that player count, and you might want to get to a certain spot before other people. For example, there could be a really good tile out here that you want to get to, and you want to be the first to do that. So initiative in the first place is very important. But on top of that, the actual workers you're going to get and the actions you're going to get from round to round is equally, if not more important, because, I could go really quickly and only get 3 actions, or I can kind of guarantee that I'm going last, but get a whole bunch of actions. And on top of that, you've got to actually work out which workers you're going to get in the first place. So I might get 3 farmers here, which will get me first initiative. But I might want to get that first initiative in order to sell 3 fruits or three jams. And you've got to bear in mind that you might not get a bonus for doing that. And the same applies for these different orchards here. So these are pretty scarce if you want to get a particular type of fruit, but some of them require particular workers to do it. So all this is quite interesting, and you have to decipher whether you are willing to pay that little sacrifice, whether you are going to maybe push your luck and hope that somebody doesn't go a spot so that you get the boosted action by placing the particular worker there, which is fantastic and adds a lot more depth than might first appear at face value. On top of all that, you've got a power that you're going to get from round to round, which are generally going to be more powerful. Well, actually, to be fair, it is quite balanced. So you can either, get things such as, gaining 1 additional fruit of the same type when using the orchard action. So this is going to let you gather fruit a lot quicker. Or you're going to get the ones that you're going to get a lot of actions, but potentially, get a bit of a punishment. So for this one, I cannot use the houses action, which means I'm not going to be able to get these assistants. But these cards have lots of interesting things, and they're all pretty much individual. Such as being able to use my workers interchangeably, such as being able to sell two types of fruits if they were 3, because normally when you go to the market and sell fruit, you have to sell 3 at once in order to get the market price. But that one lets you do it with 2. So being a lot more efficient and being able to buy and sell things, or grow and sell things, a lot quicker than you would be able to do otherwise. So I love the variation in the deck here and the consideration of the hand management and card play that you're going to have to weigh up from turn to turn. I think that is fantastic and something I haven't seen before, particularly this order of workers you're going to have to place. And on top of all of that, you've got to manage up your resources, because you're going to have a steady income of fertilizer and pesticide in order to get the fruit in the first place. But I think the thing that I took away the most from this game was how interesting these development tiles are, because they do really wild and wonderful things that are extremely powerful, and you pretty much want to do everything. And I think that is so key for a game like this, where the rule set is pretty simple, but you do want to do these different things just to give you something that other players can't do. And they could be simple things such as I said, increasing your storage, or just getting fruits instantly, being able to raise the price of things when you sell them. And they are divided into 2 sections as well. So after the end of the second season, they are going to ramp up in their complexity and the power in what they can do. So there is that scaling ability and that progression which will ramp up as the game goes on. So let's take a look about what some of these tiles do. I don't want to show you all of them, because I almost want you to discover them yourself, because a lot of the fun, at least for me, was in these tiles. So, for example, these ones here, so whenever you sell fruit by selling 3 at the same time, you always sell them at +1 value. Because normally when you sell things, or when you buy things, when you sell things, you sell them at the value here, and then they'll slide down. But doing this one will always keep the prices strong for all of the fruit, which is extremely powerful. This one here lets you basically combine any 2 fruit to make one of the relevant jams, so it gives you so much more flexibility there. This one here, when you harvest these particular fruits, you get 1 extra. This one here lets you not only gain the fertilizer and the pesticide, but at the end of the game, every pair of those is going to get you 4 points, which is quite significant. You've got this one here that whenever you make jams, you get to take another worker placement spot straight away. So you get a turn back to back, which can be really important, because when you produce jams, you might want to sell them while the market is still high before other players get in there and reduce that price. And in the Christmas sale at the end of the game, everything is going to be worth +2. So all these are so good and so valuable. And the second part as well, they really do ramp up. So this one here, depending on how many sales I make in the Christmas sale or the Christmas festival, you are going to get the scaling ability here. So if I sold 6 jams, I'm going to get a plus 25 coins for doing so, and I'm going to get the additional storage capacity. This one here lets you just sell 5 things instantly, so you don't have to waste your turn in order to do that. This one here, depending on how many fruits you've got at the end, you're going to get points. This one here lets you make 5 jams instantly, and this one here gives you like an extra worker placement spot that only you can go to, which means that you can sell 3 jams no matter what worker you use. So that's a way to get more use out of your assistants, for example. So all of these are just fantastic, all of them you want, and that kind of scarcity to getting them is really strong in this game, which I absolutely love. So to summarize the mechanisms and the decisions, this one, it has so much hidden depth, so much scope to rack your brain over and to prioritize things, which I think is great. There are different things you can do here to increase the replayability. The Kickstarter version, I assume all the versions are going to be Kickstarter versions, is going to allow you to use things such as unique player powers. They can give you kind of variable setups in terms of the fruit you're going to start with. You've got lots of different in-game goals here. You've got these abilities here where if you collect 3 of a certain type of tile, or a particular type of tile, then you're going to get the bonuses here. And these are all variable, and you can chop and change from game to game to give you lots of replayability. On top of all that, you are never going to use all of these tiles from game to game. There's a big stack of them, and only a few are going to be taken. So again, you're going to see different tiles every single game, and that also applies to the cards, because you've only got 5. There's a big deck of cards here, and they've all got really cool powers on. So again, give you a different feeling from game to game, where you're not going to see everything in every single game you play. So I think the replayability in this game is actually really strong. The interaction as well is what you'd probably expect through a worker placement and kind of a stock manipulation game, or kind of a resource speculation game, I suppose you'd call it. You've got the real scarcity of getting to these spots, that race and the tenseness and the turn angst of getting to the spots that you want. Additionally, you've got the market here, where you want to be selling things while they're still worth a lot of money, because as soon as your opponent goes there and starts selling, that value is going to diminish pretty quickly. The progression of the game as well, I think, is really well done. So particularly because you're going to be gathering the tiles as you go throughout, and these tiles sometimes synergize with each other wonderfully. For example, some of them might say, as soon as you produce jams, you can sell them, and some might say, as soon as you sell, you take another action, and then some might say, when you sell a particular type of fruit, you get to sell it higher. So once you combine those different things together, you can take some pretty powerful turns and do things that other players can't do. And I think that build of that very small but very powerful engine is a big part of why I like Frutticola. And the time investment as well is something that is great in Frutticola. 4 seasons are very, very quick. The game only takes about an hour to play, and there's still a tremendous amount of depth here that you need to explore and rack your brain over. So yeah, I think a game of this magnitude to play in 60 minutes is really well done. So I can't complain whatsoever about the time investment. The turns are pretty snappy. Sometimes you are taking quite a few actions from round to round, such as 6 placements and potentially more than that. And sometimes you're only taking 3 placement spots. So yeah, there's no real scope for being bogged down and taking too long and dragging on too long and outstaying its welcome. I think the game does a great job of staying in that under 60-minute time frame, which is 2 thumbs up from me. So overall, I think this game is really well done. I'm really surprised actually by why this game is getting such mixed reviews. I can only attribute that to maybe being disproportionately focused on some of the production issues. But if I'm talking about the gameplay, in isolation, this game is so solid. There's some really unique things here, such as the card play, the workers you're going to get from round to round. The market is interesting. The scarcity of the worker placement spots is great. In particular, the development tiles are absolutely amazing. They add so much depth to the game. It adds so much flavour to the game, and it really does remind me of a game like Raccoon Tycoon, where every single power, you want to have it. And the fact that you're not going to see these all from game to game is just going to add so much more interest for me to keep getting this one to the table. So either I'm missing something here and I'm not understanding what the other people are saying in terms of it not being a great game, or they've not given it a fair chance, because it is so good, and just a really well-rounded Euro game, an economical vibe where you're trying to get as much money as you can, and that really does shine through. So all these separate elements come together in a very simple framework, but just mesh together beautifully, and it's certainly going to be a contender for my pleasant surprise of the year. I think it's a great game, really, really strong. That is Frutticola by Giovanni, Fiore, and Virginio Gigli. Check this one out, and do not immediately presume that some of the reviews are right. Find out for yourself, because the gameplay is really strong. This one is going to get my shield of quality, and I'm proud to give it that. And again, I'm really gutted that this one has not got the buzz from the get-go, really. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, please hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos too. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.